So first guy, Eflin, he continues to feel really good after coming out and hitting the IL with the very mild, what we hope is very mild lat strain that he incurred. He's going to start playing catch in a few days. We'll have to see how that goes and kind of take it from there. But so far, encouraging with the way that he's felt since being injured, and I am hopeful at this point that his stay on the IL will be measured more in weeks than months. But again, kind of to see how he responds to starting to play catch. Grayson Rodriguez recuperating from the sore tricep elbow injury that he had in spring training. He's thrown 2 bullpens now. His most recent one had off-speed pitches with spins, as we say, and he's got another bullpen the day after tomorrow. So far, he is tolerating everything well physically, so that's good news, but we still have a lot ahead of us in terms of bullpens, build-up, live BP, ultimately rehab assignment, and I'm not ready to assign a timetable to his recovery yet. I know that he's doing everything he can to strengthen up and get back to help the team as soon as possible, but we're not at the point yet of kind of ballparking when that's going to be, but he continues to feel pretty good. Albert Suarez had a strain the first couple days of the season, subscapularis muscle region in the front part of his shoulder. Is a large muscle strain. Fortunately, it's not anything that portends sort of negatively long term, but this is something that's going to take a while to heal. He is still in the healing phase. He's a few weeks away from testing out playing catch. We've just got to let him rest and heal up. Not at the point yet of assigning a return ballpark date for him yet, but it's going to be much later in the season, consistent with what we said originally. Andrew Kittredge, coming off of the knee surgery, continues to fly along with the rehab. He's throwing bullpens. We could get him into a live BP the week after next. And, once you're at that stage, you start to talk about rehab assignments a few weeks after that. So all said, there is a possibility that he puts himself in a position to be activated before the end of May. But there's a lot of time left there. But so far, it's moving along at the front end of any hopeful window for the recovery from his knee surgery. Kyle Bradish, I don't have a lot to report there. He threw a bullpen the other day. Looked great, feels great. Knock on wood, this is kind of flying along in terms of what you'd hope for from a Tommy John surgery. He's still not a guy that, with everything we'd want to do to get him back into game shape and build him up and return to skill, that we'd be thinking about any sooner than kind of the later half of the summer, but he's very much on track. Tyler Wells is in a similar boat. He has not started his mound progression yet, but that's going to come within the next 2 weeks, so he's a little bit behind Kyle in that regard. But everything moving along well in terms of his Tommy John recovery. Also somebody that we expect back well before the end of the season, and in all hope and likelihood in the latter part of the summer. Chase McDermott and Trevor Rogers are on similar timetables right now, so I'm kind of lumping them together, but they're both multiple bullpens deep, got their velocity built up. They're getting ready to face live hitters in Florida next week. And we'll take it from there, but these are also guys that are potentials to put themselves in the conversation for activation before the end of the month of May. Colton Cowser, I don't have much of an update. He's got a broken bone on the tip of his thumb. Got to let that heal up. He's in here working hard. He's staying in game shape. He's conditioning, but there's not a whole lot you can do while your thumb's broken. So can't predict exactly how quickly a bone's going to heal, but kind of hopeful for a late May, early June target for him. But we're going to have to take that as it comes with how quickly he's injured, with how quickly he heals. And then moving on to minor league injuries of some of our more significant prospects. Enrique Bradfield, last Thursday at Bowie, I was at the game, hit a triple and was rounding second base and pulled up a little bit. We took an MRI. It is a mild hamstring strain. This is going to be a few weeks. It's not a huge deal. It's something that he could get back to active games by the middle part of May. We just got to let his hammy heal up a little bit. He's not had one of these before, and it doesn't look like too severe of an injury, so hopeful that it's just kind of run-of-the-mill mild hamstring pull. And then Sam Basayo, as we know, right after camp broke, reported some elbow soreness. That recuperation is going well. However, on April 5th, he pulled his hamstring while DHing in a game. Again, it's looking like a milder hamstring type of strain that's healing. I think we could see him back DHing in the Norfolk lineup within a couple of weeks, and we're hopeful that he'll be back to catching in the month of May. So all these guys are more or less on track. We just have a lot of guys injured right now. Can't wait to get any number of them back, hopefully all of them back. But those are the updates, and I'll take any other questions or questions related to their injuries best I can.
Sorry, when you need a fifth starter Saturday, do you have a plan in mind yet? And do we read anything into Brandon Young being in Aberdeen?
There's only so much in my position I can say about reading into things. He has pitched very well so far in AAA, and I think you look at the landscape of guys that we have, and especially being on the 40-man roster, he's certainly at the forefront of the conversation if and when we need a starter, and it looks like we might need one pretty soon.
Are you disappointed with the start of the ball club?
Yeah, look, we're 6-9. That's disappointing. Wish we were 9-6. It is early. There are positive things going on. We've had, everybody has a ton of injuries nowadays, but we've had more than our fair share of injuries, and we've had guys that are coming back from injuries from last year. Didn't have Gunner for the earlier part of the season. He's just getting going. So there's a lot there, but yeah, overall, would like to have a better record at this point, and there's a couple of close games that we feel like we could have won, but still see an enormous level of talent in this team, still see a playoff team, and we're going to keep pushing away and working to get things back into place to the degree that they aren't in place, and doing everything we can across the organization to improve things and improve our record, and I think it's going to happen.
Mike, is it maddening to think you took 5 minutes to go through a list of injuries there in April, and that just the mental wear on you, not just on you, on everyone involved with it, had the challenge of knowing you got to deal with that?
Yeah, I think it's part of baseball. I think it's part of sports right now, and it's certainly not limited to the Orioles. So, is it a factor in our slow record to start the year? Yes. Is it an excuse or a totality of the reason? No. And there are other teams going through it too. So it's just something that we continue to deal with, and we try to amass the most depth that we can.
Well, the guys in there said they're not panicking. Do you feel like that's the right way to kind of handle these early season struggles, is to remember that it is still early in the year and maybe not press the panic button this early?
I certainly haven't seen any signs of panic, and we're continuing to retain the same approach on a night-to-night basis. I try not to get too high when things are going great, and try not to get down when we're losing. And that's how you have to approach baseball. That said, we've got to stay on top of what we do and look at how we do things and why we do things and where we do things, and try to be in a mode of looking to improve at all times. So we're doing that too, but look, we're in a very competitive division. There's not, despite our record right now, there's not a ton of separation in the division right now. We still got a great chance and a ton of games ahead of us. So we're going to push ahead. We're going to get as healthy as possible. The guys that aren't performing the way they're used to, we're going to get them on track, and we'll see where we're at here a little later in the season. But I'm optimistic.
That you want to amass as much depth as you can. It seemed like from your offseason that was the plan, bringing in guys like Charlie, Tomo, having Al back. When you think about the starters that you're missing right now, guys who could be your 1, 2, 3 starters this year, and are going to miss months. Does it feel like there's any amount of depth you could have amassed this offseason that would have withstood something like this?
Yeah, on the pitching side, I feel like we have already tapped into basically the depth. So to say that on April 15th, it's not the plan. Obviously we knew Bradish was going to be out, but having Grayson and Eflin on the shelf simultaneously this quickly into the season at no point were we forecasting that or expecting that. And, that's just the truth. And, we've also had a number of the depth starters go down during spring training or very late into the winter time. So there's a combination of things that I just think speak to the unpredictable nature of pitching. And, we are doing the best that we can to keep enough quality starting upright to navigate a baseball season. This is not something that we're alone in. And I think there's a lot of teams right now that contending teams that don't have 5 of the guys that they envision being part of their starting pitcher depth charts up and running right now for whatever reason. And, I guess, that we count among those teams right now. And, we're doing the best we can. The good news is they're getting healthier, and we expect to see some of these guys back. But, certainly this is, wasn't what we were hoping for this quickly. But this kind of stuff happens, and you got to be aware of that.
Depth aside, the rotation additions that you did make are more mid to back end rotation guys. Do you have any regrets of not going out and adding a frontline starting pitcher, investing more in the rotation this offseason?
Yeah, look, I think we attempted all manner of things throughout the offseason. It is not feasible to land and execute every single thing that you want to do, try to do in the offseason. And my entire job is balancing the needs of the team, the needs of the roster, versus the acquisition cost and what that might do to affect future seasons. That's the job of being a general manager. That's the job of being a front office. To the degree to which that all works out well or not, we're certainly responsible for that and we're aware of it. But to try to avoid the balance of that, you're not going to do the job well. You're not going to do the job responsibly. So we made moves that we wanted to, and I think we've had some unfortunate breaks here early on. But the outlook for the rest of the season and for the organization continues to be really strong, and we're working on things behind the scenes to just keep getting better and keep the team on track or get people on track that need to get back on track, and we're doing our jobs.
Can you detail the mindset behind the offer to Corbin Burnes this offseason for what would have been a record AAV but not going for 5 or 6 years?
Normally this isn't something that I've delved into talking about. I feel in my position that I should be quiet about business activities that don't come to fruition. But players talk about stuff and get out there. I think we made a good offer, good run, good effort to retain Corbin Burnes. We knew it was going to be competitive. We knew it wasn't going to be easy. Ultimately it didn't end up in him staying with the team, and I can't criticize his going to the Diamondbacks. It makes sense to me, and we had a great experience with him. I wish him very well, but we move on, and we'll be adding more quality pitching as the years go on, and we've got a great group here and a great team, and it was something that we worked on, and it didn't cross the finish line.
How much focus do high-end free agents and extensions, when you're thinking about those things, how much focus is there on how many years? You look at what Vladdy just signed and Soto and players like that, long-term contracts, and how do you as a front office navigate where obviously you're trying to be flexible for future years?
I think it is very case by case. There are certainly a number of players in baseball, and I won't get into more specific than that, but that you wouldn't mind signing up for what appears to be the entirety of their career, and it's dependent on age, position, skill level, everything about their profile. Very, very case by case. Do not have a hard and fast philosophy about contract lengths.
You mentioned the working on things behind the scenes. Not a lot of deals get done in April. You mentioned Memorial Day is typically a day where teams kind of figure out their path going forward. What do you think the likelihood of getting a deal done in order to help your depth or help your rotation would be this early in the season?
Well, there's still chatter. I mean, as recently as today, talking to other GMs about trying to line up on trades. It's just rare in April. The motivation and sort of the clarity is not usually there. Doesn't mean you don't try. Doesn't mean you don't have the conversations. And certainly gathering the information helps. But we're working. We're always looking outside and inside to bolster the team. Inside meaning bringing guys along in the minor leagues as best we can. Outside, whether it's a major trade, which again is not typically something that happens in April, or it's waiver moves, small trades, depth moves. We're working on them, and we've done that throughout the years, throughout the season. But I think it's early for a flurry of major trade activity, but we are in touch with the other 29 teams.
Mike, how often are you involved in the conversations surrounding lineups, and do you think there's any credence to the notion that young lefties like Holiday and Kerstad could benefit from facing some of the tougher lefties and getting more reps against them?
So, I am not involved with lineups. Our front office produces information that helps Brandon and the advanced team that works with Brandon to choose the lineups on a nightly basis. But our philosophy is that the guys in the clubhouse should be deciding that, and they're the ones that are the closest to the information, that have the feel for the players on a night-to-night basis. They use a lot of statistical information that we provide in making those decisions, but it's not something that we do. That said, I'm in total support, and what I've seen from the lineups that we've had makes sense to me. We've got a roster that has a lot of diversity on it, a lot of right-handed players, a lot of left-handed players, a lot of players with some positional flexibility, and we're going to need that, and we're going to need to keep that warm throughout the season. There are all kinds of things on a night-to-night basis behind the scenes that we don't report. Guys are banged up, there's injuries, they're sore, they're tired, they're in a funk mentally. There's 162 games. We play so much baseball. We've got to rotate players through, and we have to rest guys, and so it makes sense to do that sometimes when the matchup's a little softer. It's a good day to get your lefty seated and get your righty in the game, or vice versa, or what have you. So it is a balancing act. We do discuss. We've got a lot of young, hopefully frontline hitters that are better against opposite-handed pitching right now, which is natural. They do get exposure to same-handed pitching in the minors, but doing it at the major league level is a totally different thing. And balancing that exposure versus all the stuff that I just said before, it's, I guess, more art than science, and you try to pick your spots.
Are you concerned by the starts of the season that Charlie Morton and Dean Kramer have had?
I think they're disappointed that their stats aren't better. They both look fine in terms of their stuff and velocity, and their track records that they've laid down at the major league level certainly suggest that there's good reason to believe that this is an aberration. But yeah, you'd like, especially while we have pitcher injuries, you also don't want slow starts from some of your proven major league starters at the same time. But unfortunately, that's what we've gotten. So they both have a chance to get the turnaround going this turn through the rotation, and I hope that happens.
When do you think we'll see Kyle Gibson?
Well, he's throwing today in Norfolk. I think that it's supposed to be another 4+, meaning 4 innings and maybe more if he can. And we'll probably give him another turn that's even longer if things continue to go smoothly. The way that his contract is structured, we will be counting on him as soon as May 1st, but it's always a possibility earlier.
I know long-term contract extensions are a case-by-case basis, and you're not going to delve into the specifics as much as we would love if you did. But since 2019, the Orioles are the only team, I believe, to have not signed a player to a contract extension of 4+ guaranteed years. I'm curious, why do you think that is? What are some of the hurdles that you're facing? Is there anything philosophically with you or your front office that makes you guys maybe not willing or able to sign players to long-term contract extensions?
I didn't catch that stat you said exactly, but I mean, look, I'm aware of what's going on, and I'm aware of the conversation around us. I guess I'll be a little more revelatory than I have been, and this is something that we're working on. There's guys on this team that we would like to have on this team longer than they're currently slated for. It's not a point-and-shoot thing. It's case by case. There's different players, different skill levels, different representatives, different philosophies around how to handle players at different age levels, and we've got some really good ones. And on top of that, we've had a very recent ownership change after kind of a protracted thing during a rebuild. And, these guys are great, but they're relatively new. So there's only so much I can say about it other than, it's something that we want to do if it makes sense, that we are working on. And if it happens, we'll be out here talking about it. But it's certainly not something that I can or want to force unilaterally. So we'll continue to work on it. In the meantime, the players, I think they love being on this team together, and the way that we let them be themselves and play and surround them with good players and good resources. And I hope we have a great season. But we'll work on the business of the team behind the scenes the best I can, and hopefully we have something at some point that makes sense.
Mike, I know your primary focus is winning, keeping the window open, managing future seasons as well as this one, but sort of on that topic, does trying to make somebody an Oriole for life have relevance to this franchise or this front office? I mean, is that something that you look at as a goal of in your position and what you try to do?
I think it's terrific if it happens. I read some quotes that Mark Shapiro made a few weeks ago, the president of the Blue Jays, and I thought he said it well, that that is something that is excellent to value, but it needs to come in conjunction with winning. And so, we've got to keep an eye on both of those things. And, that it's certainly something that we're not oblivious to the potential value of keeping great athletes in Baltimore when we can. But this is Major League Baseball. It's different than other sports, and it can be a complicated topic sometimes. We were doing everything within our power to do as well on this front as we can.
Do you think that signing a deal like that sends a message to free agents, to other guys in the clubhouse, to fans, this team is serious about winning? Is that something you weigh and maybe pushing something to the finish line?
I think, first of all, I think winning sends a message that you're serious about winning. So, we got to take care of that. And, last couple of years we have. I think even with our slow start, we are the winningest team in the American League the last 2 years. Now we're not going to rest on those laurels. We're 6-9 right now. We got to get it going again. But this is a very serious competitive organization. As I said, we've had a lot of major change recently. We're doing a lot around the organization to spruce up the organization, the stadiums, the facilities, the resources available to the players behind the scenes, and there are going to be contracts involved in that, free agent extensions. It's going to happen over time, and that's the most I can say about it right now, but it's certainly something that my staff and I and the ownership group are applying a lot of attention to.
On Jackie Robinson Day, it was pretty well documented you took over a team that didn't have an international pipeline. So to see what you've built now, can you just speak to the importance of how much that diversity does matter to bring to these guys?
I think it's a credit to the players in Latin America and the Dominican and Venezuela. I mean, they've made it. It's not optional to be heavily involved in the youth market in Latin America. So we weren't terribly involved in 2019. We've since gotten involved. We've got a great academy. All 30 teams are heavily invested in that part of the world, and it's because baseball is so healthy there. And I think it's good for the game to have international stars, international talent. And I'm proud that the Orioles are no longer an exception to that.